Hi, it's T. Carlson here. Today we're looking at a classic film that's celebrating its 30th anniversary. The movie we're looking at today, having just gotten a Steelbook release courtesy of Sony, is Rudy, starring Sean Astin as Daniel Rudy Rudiger, the famed Notre Dame football player. I'm going to unbox this release and I will share my opinions. Here's the cover of the Steelbook, very nice shot there of Rudy on the Notre Dame football field. Here's the spine of the Steelbook. Here's the back cover with all of our pertinent information. Top of the card, bottom of the card. And then the back of the field has Rudy being carried off the field. That looks very nice. We do get a digital code of the film. And this release includes 2 discs. We get the 4K Ultra High Def release of the film, which actually includes a few new bonus features. And then we also get a Blu-ray copy of the film. The Blu-ray, despite new art, is identical to the 2008 Blu-ray release. Underneath here we have some nice art of Rudy in his Notre Dame uniform on the football field. I love the way that looks. You can kind of see more of the crowd there. It's kind of hard to see with the glare on here. But that is a nice looking Steelbook. Sony's really been doing a good job with a lot of these recent Steelbook releases, and this one looks very nice. And I will read the description of the film from the backing card. All his life, people have told Rudy he's not good enough, not smart enough, not big enough. But nothing could stop his impossible dream of playing football for Notre Dame. From the time he's a young boy, Rudy is determined to join the Fighting Irish. But his blue-collar family only laughs at his ambitions. They know Rudy will follow in his father's and brother's footsteps to the local steel mill. And after 4 long years after high school, he does just that. But some dreams don't die, as Rudy proves when he goes to heroic, occasionally hilarious lengths to win admission to Notre Dame. Once there, he becomes a walk-on player, serving as little more than a human tackling dummy against the starting players. Bloodied but unbeaten, Rudy wins the respect of legendary coach Ara Parsegian and the other Irish players, who give him one shot at gridiron glory. An incredible true story from the creators of Hoosiers, Rudy's an unforgettable testament to the power of dreams and the triumph of the common man. Hard to believe this movie's 30 years old now. This movie, of course, falls into 2 very cliched and overdone categories in the cinematic world. Sports movies and movies about following your dream. These kinds of films are a dime a dozen, but Rudy really transcends this and certainly stands the test of time as one of the greatest films ever made in both categories. One of the greatest things about Rudy is you do not have to be a sports fan to enjoy this movie. I mean, I'm certainly not a sports fan, and yet this is one of my favorite movies I've ever seen. Sean Astin, of course, stars as Daniel Rudy Rudiger, the young man who's determined to go to Notre Dame and become part of the Fighting Irish on their football team, having watched their games on the TV as a little boy in a steel town where everyone's not exactly the best off. He's repeatedly told that all of this is impossible, but he never stops and he keeps going, even having to get into another college just to try to transfer to Notre Dame with no certainties. And even once he gets there, he's pretty much stuck on a prep team and isn't able to get on the dress list to actually participate in a game. So you can just see the lengths and sheer amount of things that he has to go through to accomplish his goals. This is certainly Sean Astin's movie, but the supporting cast is one of the best parts about it. The cast includes Robert Prosky playing a priest at Notre Dame who becomes one of Rudy's helping hands in these tough times. Ned Beatty, one of the most underrated character actors of all time, portraying his father who serves as a foreman at the steel mill and believes his son will follow in his footsteps there. Charles S. Dutton as Fortune, the groundskeeper who becomes sort of a friend to Rudy after he moves away. Jason Miller appears in the film as Coach Parsegian. Jason Miller, of course, prior to this was known for his role as Father Karras in The Exorcist, so it's great to see him getting to play another pretty high-profile role and doing an excellent job of it. Sadly, he'd pass away in the early 2000s. And you even get appearances from a young Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau back before anyone knew who those guys were. And again, the film was directed by David Anspaugh, the man who directed Hoosiers, a great high school basketball drama that came out back in the mid-'80s. I'm really hoping that movie gets a 4K release as well, because that's another personal favorite. I can't speak 100% for the historical accuracy of the film. It's based on a true story, but of course Hollywood always does take some degree of liberties with these stories. In particular, I know for a fact that the real-life Dan Devine, who's the coach that follows Parsegian, has objected to the way he's depicted in the film, particularly in one later scene where the other football players object to Rudy not being allowed to dress for a game. Again, I'm not going to go into what's real and what's not real. I simply don't know enough about the actual story to say things like that, and it's not what the review is about. So, you have an absolutely fantastic cast here. You can get a musical score by Jerry Goldsmith, one of the all-time great movie score composers, and it's one of those rare examples where everything just comes together perfectly. It's a very relatable story, and again, you absolutely do not have to be a sports fan to like this movie. The character of Rudy is universally likable and relatable. It's part of the reason this movie, even 30 years later, remains one of the most popular and best of all time, and it's one I'm going to keep finding myself coming back to. This is the first appearance of Rudy in 4K Ultra High Def. For years and years, we'd had that Blu-ray copy from 2008, which would never really been improved upon, and that was a perfectly serviceable and fine disc for its time, but it's good to finally see, 15 years later, this is actually getting an upgrade. And I'm happy to say the 4K Ultra High Def disc of Rudy looks very good. Much of this film is a very soft-looking movie, and it's never going to be what you would call Ultra High Def demo material, but it is a nice upgrade and certainly looks more natural than its Blu-ray counterpart. You get the expected upgrades that you would find from a 4K release here, including more vibrant colors when they're needed, and deeper, darker blacks. I don't think there's anything that illustrates this better than the scenes in the steel mill. I mean, you see molten materials that are like white hot, and that white just pops right off the screen, but then you also have the deep, dark shadows in the steel mill, and those are like pitch black, but you still get the shadow detail where needed. Just throughout the movie, it's a great uptick in almost every way. And this disc includes the original theatrical cut of the movie, as well as a newly released extended director's cut that runs about 10 minutes longer, adding a few extra scenes just throughout the film. Nothing here's exactly a revelation, but you do get some expanded character development. Namely, the character Mary, who Rudy interacts with, gets more screen time here. And it is a nice upgrade in every way. I don't know if I'd say the director's cut's necessarily better than the tighter, shorter theatrical cut, but I did appreciate the extra character development. The 4K release actually also adds in some additional unreleased deleted scenes, commentary tracks, and then you also have the theatrical trailer on that disc as well. The Blu-ray is identical to the previously released Blu-ray, so it's got all of those featurettes, including the Rudy the Real Story featurette, a production featurette with Sean Astin, and then another featurette. And the Blu-ray, because it's the same as the old one, just has the theatrical cut, not the director's cut. Rudy remains one of my favorite films of all time, and I'm so glad to see that Sony finally gave this one its just dues on 4K. And this is one that I believe belongs in the collection of any 4K collector. No matter what your taste in movies may be, you're going to find something about Rudy that's relatable. Are you a fan of Rudy? Do you think it's one of the greatest sports dramas of all time? What do you think about Sean Astin's performance here? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more content because I'm always posting new videos. And make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm T. Carlson. I'll see you next time.